Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about why you can retire now.
Yeah, this is a pretty controversial subject for a lot of people because there's
Yes.
a group of people out there that want to be tied down to the fear of retirement and others that are not. And they kind of butt heads on this. We belong in the not afraid of retirement category. And we're inviting you to join that category with us because it is a great category to be in. And I think the crux of this is that retirement has changed over the years, and what's available with the internet, with travel, has really changed. And there's a lot of reasons why you can probably just retire now, even though your financial advisors have been telling you for the last 20-30 years you need this number, this high in the sky number of $5 million or whatever you've been told to retire. And there's a lot of things that have changed that make that a little more obsolete than it was 20 years ago. It was true 20 years ago, you did need that money. But what's changed is a few key things. And those things are, in this day and age, you can make more money if you need to later on, right?
Exactly. There are so many options of ways to make money after you're retired than while you were working and tied down to your 9 to 5. And then the other thing to think about also is that the term retirement is a little bit different than what it used to be. I mean, for a lot of people, even still now, which is why there's so much resistance still to the thought process of early retirement, is that you hang on so that you can earn as much as you possibly can to use in your retirement. But the actual, kind of meaning of retirement is just to cease or change what you have been doing. So just stepping out of what you were originally doing, that's a retirement in and of itself. That doesn't mean you can't turn and do something else, pivot and do some side hustles or different things like that.
Yeah. Another thing that's changed in the retirement world is the ability to live in places that are cheaper than you are living now. So 20-30 years ago, it was kind of unheard of to go retire overseas. And so a lot of the retirement models are still built on this idea that you're going to retire where you are. But when you start looking at retiring overseas, we're overseas right now. We're in Thailand right now. This is being filmed from Thailand. We just came from Vietnam, which Vietnam is probably the cheapest country you can retire in. We met a ton of people there that were living on less than $1,000 a month, and they were living pretty well. Now, we gave ourselves a budget of $3,000 a month there. Couldn't do it. We tried to spend $3,000. We would have had to throw money out the window just driving down the road.
We actually made a video here on the channel about trying to spend $3,000 and we just didn't get there.
Yeah, we tried to get massages, we tried to eat out, went to movies, couldn't get there. We ended up spending $2,500 in a month. It was kind of like the old Brewster's Millions movie where you're trying to get rid of all your money. It's like we could not get above $2,500 because we're like, all right, we'll go to a movie tonight. It was $4 for the movie. The popcorn was 50 cents. It was like ridiculous, and we were seeing brand new U.S. movies. So this whole idea of you're going to need $10,000 to $12,000 a month to retire, whatever number you've been given, simply isn't true everywhere in the world. And I think what's worked for us is we've been entrepreneurs our entire life, and that means that our money, our entire life, since we were in our 20s, has gone up and gone down based on the year, based on how we did, based on a variety of factors, ad revenues, ad rates, just sales that we were getting for the products that we had. And so we've had really good years, we've had really bad years. And what that's helped us do is to realize that when things aren't as good as we thought they were going to be throughout our life, we know we can gear it down. We don't need to spend $8,000 a month. We know, because we've done it probably for 5 or 10 years out of those 30 years, that when we were having a bad year, we know we can get by on 3 to 4,000 a month. We know we don't need to eat out as much. We know we don't need to have all these things. And once you find your baseline, that doesn't mean you have to live there. That means you don't have to have fear about losing your money, because you know if that scenario happens, you can do it. And so for us in our retirement, we've been to Vietnam. We know that if there was a money crunch in our retirement, we could go there and we could easily live on $1,000 a month without a problem. With no doubt in my mind whatsoever, we could live on $1,000 a month there.
Absolutely. And I think that has been the game changer, that the world has been opened up to you, and there are so many options outside of your home country. Specifically, if you're like us from the US, there are so many options, much more economical options outside of the US, and you don't even have to fly there. You have options of cruising there. You have options of taking trains to different places. There's just so many options anymore, that there's something for everyone. So it's just something that you have to be kind of open to doing things in a little bit different way than you're used to, and that you probably, you probably grew up in a way that, you kind of only thought of it the one way. And it's okay to start opening your eyes up to, oh, wait a minute, there's another way, and there's another way, and that looks different too, but that looks good. And just being okay with something a little bit outside the box.
Yeah, I think that the retirement industry as a whole is driven by fear. And people are made to feel fearful that you're not going to make it, you're going to run out of money. What if this happens? What if this happens? What if that stuff doesn't happen? Because for most of the people that over save and over earn to get their retirement up to this number that they've been told they need to get to, they never end up using all that money. Most people will end up not getting to use all that money they saved up. So they work their 50s, they work through their 60s, and then they got 5 to 7 years in their 70s to use all that money up, and they almost never do. Now, there are people who live to be 90, and they may use all that money up. But for the most part, people are trading their best years. And I think if you look at all the studies, people say that you're happiest in your 50s, happiest in your 60s. Those are your best years, and people who trade those years, 50s and 60s, to earn more money to spend in their 80s or 90s, that's a bad proposition. Because right off the bat, over half of them don't even get to their 80s or 90s. And the ones that do end up realizing, you know what, I didn't need that much money in my 80s or 90s, and I wasted my 50s and 60s in a job that I hated to earn money that I wasn't going to end up needing anyway. And so what we're saying is, the other way of doing this is to say, in this day and age, if I end up coming up short, I can readjust by either making more money or going to live somewhere that's cheaper. And if I have that as my mentality, and I know I can do that, maybe I can chop 5 or 10 years off of this and live the life that I actually wanted to live.
Yeah, it's kind of gives you a little bit more of a softer landing, knowing that, okay, well, I could make some more money, or I could live somewhere that's less expensive. It kind of softens the blow of just taking that big leap into the abyss of retirement with no thoughts or ideas of, well, answering the what ifs. What if I run out of money? What if this? What if that? And at the end of the day, like you said, those things don't end up coming to fruition 9 times out of 10. I mean, we are in various expat communities, or just people who travel full time, and it's just the odds of it happening, I think maybe just in like one situation out of thousands and thousands of people, just from the people we're connected with in online communities, is, it's a very rare thing. So to basically forego, like Rob said, your best years just to cover your bases of those fears seems like a real waste of what you have, of your life, and what you have to offer, and what you can do. because there are lots of other what ifs outside of that, you just, once you start doing things in a little different way, those other what ifs, become less and less noisy.
And it's not to say that there's not people who do something like this and then do get into a money crunch. What we're saying is we've never seen anybody do this, get into a money crunch, and then have an absolute failure. There's always a way for people to do things in this world. So we know of some people who, they did get into a money crunch, and they said, well, what can we do about this? And they just started doing house sitting. And that's a very easy thing that people do. There's people that house sit year round. And if they have a down year, they'll just go do house sits for the whole year. Free housing for the year. And they're basically living for free, just their food.
Wherever they want.
Because they don't need to pay utilities, they don't need to pay anything. There's almost always a way out where if you can find that baseline that says, if the worst happened and we go do this, we'll still be fine. We can live with that. That gives you the freedom to do it. Now the upside of this, for us, has been amazing. And that's the thing that you might be missing out on, because we left our jobs 5 years ago, and for the first 2 years didn't do anything. Just kind of traveled, did some photography, but I wasn't really selling it or anything. And then we decided we wanted to do some stuff, and now we're actually making more money than we did when we were working our jobs. And that only would have been possible by taking the leap. So you really don't know what's going to happen to the bad. Yes, that is true. But you have a way to mitigate that. But you also don't know what's going to happen to the good if you do this. So many people have retired and then gone on to do something else that just fell in their lap. Mm-hmm. And when you just say to yourself, I'm going to work this job that I hate for the next 10 to 15 years, I'm just going to put my head down and do it. That is just not a winning proposition for the next 20 years of your life. So we're just here to say, a lot of people think they can't retire now. A lot of people that think they can't retire could retire. And if you're miserable in your life, the question is why? It's because you're chasing this ideal that only we chase, people watching this channel. 99% of the world does not have a 401k, does not have a retirement fund. And in the history of the world, more than 99% of the people have not had that. So we're slaving and working away for something that most of the world has never and will never had. And so only in our little sphere that we grew up in were we taught that this is a must-have. And most of the people we meet, they don't have that, but they're gonna just do life and they're happy. And I think at the end of the day, it's just a bad trade to trade your 50s and 60s to get money that you might use in your 80s.
That you may or may not use later. And that really is, basically that's what it boils down to, is this little pep talk was to encourage you to start, introducing some of these thoughts into your thought process about retirement. There are other ways. You do not have to sacrifice your best years. Guys, really hope that this was helpful for you. Leave us any of your questions down in the comments section. We'll see you guys next time.